Hello everyone, welcome back. Today I'm going to be working on a couple of junipers that I airlayed off last year, or the other one is probably a couple of years old. So this one I'd airlayed off and repotted into this last year. So I'm just going to give it its first initial styling. In other words, just bending the trunk into place really. I don't think I'll do any branch work on it yet. Because as you can see, there's not a lot of branching and stuff, but once I get the main trunk line, because I want to bend it while it's still quite thin, I don't want it getting thicker and thicker that it gets harder and harder to bend it. So I'll get it bent now, and then at least it's ready then for styling the branches maybe next year when they're starting to shoot out. You can see at the tips it's starting to shoot out all new growth. So it's a good time to do a bit of work on it. So my plan is probably I'm going to run 2 wires up to the main trunk, and then have one continuing on that one and one continuing on this one. I'm thinking this 2 might not be. I might have to go with 2.5, which I only have in black, but doesn't really matter the colour of it. So you want it kind of thick enough that you can get good bends in it and it's not struggling to bend the branches. And because it'll be double thickness on the trunk, I'm hoping that'll be enough to bend the trunk. If not, we might have to put either a heavier one or a third one on it. Okay, so I'll just dig that into the part of it, and we'll just wind it round. I don't think this is going to be strong enough, to be honest, to bend the trunk, even double thickness. We'll see. I haven't taken any branches off or anything yet, because I don't know until I've bent it down and into place. I'm obviously going to make this into a cascade. When I bend it down into place, I might find that the branches that I wanted to keep, or that I cut off, are the branches that I needed to keep because they'll be on the top. So if possible, it's best to bend it, I find, unless it's completely chock-a-block, then maybe you could select some branches out. But again, these were just branches that I airlayed off different trees because the tree was just overcrowded with branches, had too many branches, so I just airlayed them off, put them into pots. When they grew, then I made a decision. This is probably actually airlayed off 2 years ago, because I would have repotted it into this pot last year, so it would have been in an ordinary pot first. Now it's in bonsai soil in this pot. It would have been in still in its left in its sphagnum moss in the original pot I would have put it into. Now just want to make sure if I'm putting a double wire on, do I want it above or below this one? And because I'm going to be coming onto this branch, so we want to come above this, I think. No, below it actually be better. So we'll put it below it, stick it into the soil. I'll just follow that one around, keeping them tight enough together. Prune that end off there. Just going around underneath the other wire and keeping it close up against it, and then when I come to here I can bring it round and onto this branch like that. So you can see the two of them are coming round, and then this one that's underneath can come around there, and then it's coming onto this branch. So there's a few too many branches up here, but try and get around without having to take off any if we can. Not to catch any needles in there. Now there's bar branches on everything on this, but like I said, we'll decide which ones we want to take out after we've bent it, because we want to take off the ones that are on the inside of curves. So until I bend it, I'm not going to know which one. Like, you can obviously prune it first and then just wire it so that your wire is always on the outside of the opposite side of the branch. When you bend it, the branch on the outside, but then you just, I don't know, making life a little bit more trickier for yourself. Okay, so now as I'm bending it, I'm obviously wanting to bend it the same way as the wire, so that the wire is actually tightening onto the branch. So we want to be bending it this way. I'm not too sure if this one is going to be strong enough for this. Okay, these two we can use as our apex afterwards if we want to have an apex. Sometimes we don't have an apex on it, cascading one. Just gently teasing it around a bit at a time. So it stops moving around the place. Okay, so on the side I'm probably going to have it, the tree kind of on here basically, so this will be the front. So I'm going to bring this around here. Definitely need to kind of try and get this down more if I can. What I might do is actually tie a wire around there in a minute, just to hold it around the pot. And that will set that there a bit better. So now we just need to put a bit of movement into this. Remember, this is only the trunk. Your branches will be coming off to make your pads up here. You don't need to make the trunk into the pads. The trunk just needs to have a bit of movement in it like that. And maybe we'll have this one. Something like something like that. So I'm going to lower the camera a little bit more. Okay, so it's hard to see what's going on now, but now we can do want to do is just try and get this turned slightly this way. It's actually a little stub in there. We'll get rid of that because it's stopping the branches being able to close. Okay. Because that's kind of given us our basic shape of our branches. I'll just clean out now where obviously we're not going to want, but you can see branches like this now will become our pads out here. You got ones that are on the inside which we won't want, and the ones growing off the bottom we're not going to want, so we'll just get rid of the ones off the bottom anyway, just to let a little bit more light in to this guy down here. Again, we'll take off any of the bottom ones down here just to make sure all our energy goes into our top branches. I'm going to prune them back. The new growing tips I'm going to take off to try and encourage the branches back along to push more. I don't want them to just keep getting elongated. We need them to push out more branches out, stronger up here. Okay, this one we're not going to need under here. Like I said, we can style these guys to make an apex up here. But what I will do now is just, you can fiddle around with it afterwards and you get what you want. But I think for now that's pretty okay for a starter. Maybe just kink the bottom down a little bit more. I'm just going to bring that in like that. A piece of wire to set that like that rather than putting another heavier wire on. So I'll just tie that up. Just go across that wire there so it's not digging into the tree itself. Whew. Let's just put it up on a pedestal a bit so we can see it better. I'll just get a little stand for it. Okay, so like I said, you can fiddle about with it, and as it grows you might want to change bits here and there, but until you start getting your pads growing into the positions you want them, you can see the way I've got that. I'm just checking, do I want this in anymore? If I pull it out, tighten it up a little bit. So I think that'll do for now. That'll get us started on our way, and like then we can prune it when the pads are growing. We can style these guys when they've thickened up and make an apex up here or down here or whatever way you want to do it, or it might just bend this more and get it kind of closer to the pot rather than having this loop. You know, you want to be kind of getting it down as close to the pot as you can, preferably. I could probably do that now actually. I could put another wire on it, pin it down as well as put a wire under the pot, because you do want it close to the pot if you can, rather than looping up. Let's just see about doing that. We'll put a bit of hose on it just so it doesn't damage the top, because you can be able to see that. Okay, so that's a little bit better. It's not as looping up in the air. Like with a cascade, you want it to be falling down. You don't want it going up and then back down. You want to try and get it so it's. You might even get that another pinch on. You literally want it as tight to the pot as you can. Okay, just put that out of the way like that. That's better. Kind of again like that. It's not the trunk you're going to be styling. The trunk is only to give you the bends and stuff. It's going to be the pads and the branches that you'll be styling more. So maybe something like that. This one will probably be pruned back. I'm going to prune back the growing tips off it. Okay, so this one might end up here and this one up here somewhere, so we end up with it, and these will be probably pruned back more and we'll create pads as it goes around the pot. This is probably, don't even need this now, I would say. So this is pinning it down, so we'll tighten it on because it'll help just to secure it. Okay, cut that off, a bit short, down so it's not going to catch anything, and that's it, that's ready now, just to be left and left grow. When these start to thicken up and get stronger, we'll just bend them, put them into place, and then next year we'll work on the branching. Okay, so we'll put that one out the way, we'll pull up another one, which is this guy. Which again was another air layer, a little bit older than that one. This is a Nittigower air layer that I took off one of my trees. I had this rock with this funny kind of carved section in it. I don't know what made it like that, but that's the way it is. So I'm just going to give this a bit of a clean up. You see it's got lots of growing shoots on it and stuff. These guys, I was debating whether to put a branch here, but I'm thinking it's kind of hiding the trunk, so I'm going to take it off. Get rid of it altogether so you can actually see the trunk wrapping in. It's kind of pushing itself out of the groove now. I don't think I need a branch rack here either. I'll take that one off. You can see it there now, it's just kind of weaved into the groove. So what I'm going to do now is just go around and prune back some of this extensions that it has, and also go into the tree itself, clean out all the crotches and things. Try and keep them clean, because that's where your bugs will be growing and hatching out. This guy's growing down, so I'll take him off. I do have some of these branches are kind of growing up, but my plan is to kind of leave them like that and just prune back underneath here, so that I've kind of got one pad here and then one up here, and again we'll take out all the bits growing down. See all these pieces under here. So it's going to be kind of like this. So I'm going to clean it up. Because it's trying to interfere in a bit. I'm going to clean it up and then we'll come back and have a look once it's all cleaned out a bit. And I'll prune all these back a bit. Okay, so that's kind of all I'm going to do with this one. I've pruned it now. This branch I had to take back a bit, it was sticking up a bit. I've cleaned it out, cleaned out the bottoms and stuff. And I want it to kind of be a bit more of a natural looking tree, say it's growing on the side of a mountain or something, or a cliff or something. So I'm kind of just letting it grow naturally, just keeping it pruned rather than wiring every branch into little pads and all that kind of stuff. I don't think it needs that. Maybe one day it might, I don't know, but this is just the way it's shaped after I did this. These branches just kind of, because of the way it bent, they just ended up like that. This rock can be lifted, which will show a bit more of the rock and the trunk, but I'll do that next year. It did pop out a little bit out of this groove here, and there you can see it kind of swelled and it actually split there. The bark, maybe I was pushing it in or something to damage the bark. But other than that, it's doing okay. It'll probably fill out a lot more still as well. But it just shows, if you, like, I keep saying to people, you should always try and air layer. If you've got big trees and you don't know what to do with them and they've got long skinny branches and there's only foliage at the ends, just air layer them off, put them in pots, and eventually this branch, this was like that other one, two big long branches with just tufts of foliage on the very tips, but eventually you'll find a use for it. Just to give you an idea, I'd show you, this is another one that I layered off, another tree at some stage. And again, just a long branch with tufts of foliage on the end. Not sure yet what I'm going to do with it, but I laid it off and it's growing well, as you can see. And it's very long, thin with stuff, but we'll find a use for it, whether we put it in a rock or we'll put it use it for something, or I can put crazy bends into it. I don't know yet, but get them into pots like this. Well, not like this, I made this pot myself. This is just a little concrete pot I made, kind of dragging scales and stuff in it. And when you see branches this thin, you might think, oh, it's going to be impossible to try and air layer that. It's so thin you'll never be able to take off all the bark, especially when it's in a big tree and you can't get into it easy. But on the tree you'll see all these little bumps on the bark. So if you get a bit of wire, we're not going to do it now to this tree, but if you get a bit of wire and you wrap it around the trunk where you want to air layer it, like a tourniquet, and you tighten that on really tight, and then you just get either some plastic, or I have these guys, these little plastic guys that you just fill with sphagnum moss. You put a bit of rooting hormone on it. I normally just put it on the inside of this, on the sphagnum moss, and then you just clamp that over the piece of wire that you've tied on, so the wire stops the run of the flow of sap and stuff, and then it'll just, out of all these bumps, will just send roots out all over the place and into your sphagnum moss. In this, you can use one of these, you just get them cheap online, or a bit of plastic bag or something, just wrap it around. But that's the easiest way to do these thinner ones. If you've been there and this is a big huge bush and you're in trying to get your knife in there to peel off that bark, it's just a disaster, and you could very easily just cut straight through the tree because it's so thin. So just tie a wire around it, tighten it on, and then put your sphagnum moss on there like that. You get all the roots coming out of these bumps. So yeah, so this guy, one day I think this might end up in with my big piece of black bog oak I have a couple of these trees on it, so this one might end up at the back where I can hide the trunk. That's what I did with the bigger one, the same kind of thing. I had a big long trunk with all things, so I planted it behind and then wrapped the tree around the front, so you don't actually see much of the trunk of the tree because it's hidden. So yeah, okay, so we'll leave it at that, I think. That's just giving you an idea of what you can do, and like that. Don't be afraid if they look a bit long and dangly or whatever. Just air layer them off, put them into pots, they'll thicken up and get them strong, and then you can think of what to do with them afterwards. It's hard to picture sometimes when you see them on a big bush as a branch, and you're like, what am I going to do? But just do that, and like that you can start making some nice little trees out of them. So as always guys, we'll leave it there, and thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe and share, all that kind of stuff, and we'll see you on the next one.